All right, Shalom. You reached the He Pray channel. My name is Azimawat. But first and foremost, I want to say, call Halayim, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Harakah Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Galalah Rakayim, which is a great millstone, Lashawan Tahar, where I learned this truth from and who rule well. Salutations to the Bakiyar, the elect, the 144,000. That's 12,000 men from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. The 12 tribes of Israel consist of you so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous of America. The 144,000 being the governing body within the one-third. The rest of the one-third comprises of elect men, women, and children. Shalom to those Israelites scattered due to the diaspora and also the triangular trade. So our people come looking like different ethnicities, having various complexions. So it's not a black thing. We're not the black Hebrew Israelites. We're just Hebrew Israelites. Shalom to those that died in its truth. It says the dead should be raised up first. Those that will be accompanying Yahweh Shah on his return, including our King, King Mashah, who is King David. And as always, honor and privilege, honor and blessing to continue to do this work. The water Yahweh Bashim, Yahweh Shah Bashim, Harakach Wadash, for answering my prayers and permitting me to do such. Baba Kashah Yahweh Bashim, Yahweh Shah Bashim, Harakach Wadash. Allow this to be an edifying lesson to at least one member of the elect. This is from telegraph.co.uk. It says AfD demands U.S. troops leave Germany, which we know Germany to be Tienen, which is part of NATO, which is part of the beast, and it all lines up with prophecy. It says the alternative for Germany, AfD party has called for the withdrawal of all U.S. soldiers from the country. Tino Krupala, the far-right party's co-leader, told a meeting on Saturday that it was time to remove Allied troops and nuclear weapons from Germany in order to pursue an independent foreign policy. Let's start implementing this with the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Germany, he told supporters in Saxony. Nearly 40,000 American troops are stationed in the country, which hosts more than a dozen major U.S. military installations, including its European command headquarters. The Telegraph reported on Friday that Donald Trump was considering pulling U.S. troops out of Germany, something he has been thinking about since returning to office last year. The U.S. president, who has expressed repeated frustration with NATO allies, has threatened to punish members that do not meet his 5% defense spending demands. Mr. Krupala's comments put him at odds with the Trump administration, particularly over whether America should be able to use German bases for its military activities in the future. He has previously claimed that NATO serves U.S. interests too much. On Saturday, he also stressed that Germany should not be drawn into the foreign wars, praising Spain's decision to block its bases from being used by the U.S. to attack Iran. Mr. Kurupala said that's exactly the right thing to do. Spain is not interfering in this war. Germany's Ramstein airbase is being used by U.S. forces as a hub to co-coordinate drone and missile strikes against Iran, attracting criticism from opposition politicians who fear the country could be targeted in retaliation. Friedrich Merz, the German chancellor, has also been criticized for not having a consistent policy on the Israeli US war against Iran. Last week, he accused Mr. Trump of carrying out a massive escalation in the conflict rather than attempting to end the fighting. The rhetoric between Washington and Berlin has become increasingly hostile in recent days. Surge in support for AfD. A new poll released on Sunday showed the AfD and Mr. Merz's Christian Democrats were tied for first place among German voters. While it's not the first time the party has achieved such a poll rating, it does suggest the far right's popularity is proven durable. Such support will make pledges from established German parties never to govern in coalition with the AfD increasingly difficult to honor. While the CDU and AfD are tied at 26% each, the Social Democrats currently governing as a junior partner are still languishing at a historic low of 14%. The center-left Greens were at 12% in the poll, while the liberal Free Democrats were at 3%, less than the electoral threshold required to get any seats at all. If an election were held today based on the latest poll numbers, a potentially unwieldy coalition of three of Germany's main parties would be required to keep the AfD out of power at a federal level. Meanwhile, a recent state poll in Saxony-Anhalt indicated that the far right was within striking distance of an absolute majority of the state level. The AfD previously sought to court the Trump administration with Mr. Karupala attending Mr. Trump's inauguration last year. However, the U.S. president's foreign policy, including his military action against Venezuela and Iran, has increasingly distanced the non-interventionalist AfD from Washington. So we're starting to see the beast hating the whore. So let's go to co-pilot. This is the book of Revelation, chapter 17, verse 16. It says, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast." Now those 10 horns represents those NATO nations. Let's see if I can get the picture. Which the originals, Germania Major, the Romans, the French, the Spanish, Germania Minor, British, the Greeks. It says the 10 horns represents the common market or the European Economic Community, established in 1958. Today, the EEC is known as the EU, the European Union, which consists of Belgium, Denmark, France, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Greece, Spain, and Portugal, England and Ireland, West Germany. Right. So it says concerning those nations, it says, "These shall hate the whore," and the whore is talking about America, the daughter of Babylon. and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Right, because they're going to be warring against America, man. I'm going to co-pilot Lashawan Kwadash keywords. Ha Bahama, the beast. Ashara Karnayim, 10 horns, symbolic power blocks. Hazana, the whore. Babylon the Great, America. Sanaa, to hate, be hostile toward. And you're starting to see that hostility, man. And you also had another country. You also had another country, Austria, that has denied helping the United States. It's from metro.co.uk. It says Austria blocks U.S. warplanes from using its airspace during Iran war. Right? It says the Alpine nation has reportedly blocked the U.S. from using its airspace after an announcement by its Ministry of Defense today. Austria said the U.S. will not have permission for military operations against Iran. This is due to the country's neutrality law, which bans Austria from joining any military alliances like NATO or allowing foreign military bases on its territory. You know, so the Most High, He's putting that spirit out there. Verse 17, for the Most High put in their minds or their hearts to fulfill His will, and the Heavenly Father's will is to destroy America and to agree to what? To be a part of this union, this alliance, and give their kingdom unto the beast, which is NATO, EU, until the words of the Most High shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, which is America, which reigneth over the kings of the earth, because America acts like the police of the world, right? Etymology, whore, porne, one who sells herself politically equals a nation who trades loyalty for influence. Hate, mizio, to turn against, reject, oppose. And that's what you're starting to see. You're starting to see these nations turn against America. It says the EU, NATO nations, 10 horns, will turn on America, strip her power, expose her hypocrisy, and ultimately participate in her destruction. This is the end time fracture the prophets warned about. AI commentary. This is the core prophecy. The same allies America relies on will become her executioners. The hatred grows through economic collapse, military overreach, and global resentment. Right? Going back to Revelation chapter 17, verse 12, it says, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast," which is this military alliance. So going back to co-pilot Ra'ash Akkad, in one mind, Sarath, to give over to serve, right? Breakdown. Before they hate the war, the EU nations first unified militarily and economically under the beast system. This is why the betrayal is so devastating. It comes from nations America helped build. AI commentary. Unity precedes betrayal. The beast structure consolidates power that no longer needs America. All right. The book of Obadiah, verse 7. It says, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee. So they're deceiving you. So-called white people here in America, man. And it's so bad, and people are so oppressed that everyone is rooting for these other nations. They're rooting for these other nations to destroy you, so-called white people. It says, and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. Because ultimately, your bread is your economy. These nations are gonna stop dealing with America, man, as you are starting to see, and you're starting to see that played out in the Middle East right now, with them only accepting the Chinese yuan, which takes the dollar out of the reserve status, the petro reserve status. You know, Going back to co-pilot Lashawan Quadash Kabar, is Confederacy Alliance, Nasha, to deceive, betray, right? Breakdown. Esau's own allies, NATO, EU, G7, will turn on him. They will push America into isolation, sanctions, and eventual destruction. AI commentary. This is the Old Testament witness to Revelation 17. Allies become enemies, agreements become traps, right? This is Jeremiah 50, verse 14. It says, put yourselves in array against Babylon round about, all ye that bend the bow, those that have missile technology, nuclear capability, shoot at her, which is America. Spare no arrows, for she have sinned against Yahweh, right? Shoot against her round about. She have given her hand. Her foundations are fallen. Her walls are thrown down, because it's going to be a massive destruction. For it is the vengeance of Yahweh. Take vengeance upon her, as she have done, do unto her, right? Because America doesn't do nothing but go around the world being a bully, raping, robbing, and murdering. And Lashawan Quadash, Babylon, America, Sabab, surround, encircle, break down. The nations will militarily surround America, economically, politically, and eventually with missiles. This is the beast turning its weapons toward the war. AI commentary says this is the prophetic military encirclement we see forming today through shifting alliances and global resentment. And everybody's mentioning the Epstein files, man. And I'm gonna have this from Yahoo, which people are talking about. The new evidence corroborates claims of Trump sex accuser 13, which I'll go ahead and read this. It says a new investigation has backed up evidence given by a woman who has accused Donald Trump of sexually abusing her when she was 13, according to a report. The woman conducted 4 interviews with the FBI in 2019 in which she detailed alleged abuse by Trump and child sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Her interviews referencing Trump were initially withheld by the Department of Justice. A report from the South Carolina newspaper, The Post and Courier, released on Sunday, has now corroborated key personal details given by the woman about a third man she claims also sexually assaulted her, named Jimmy Atkins. Those details are not directly related to her accusations against Trump, but suggest that she was truthful about other matters she raised with the FBI. The White House has called the woman's claims against Trump completely baseless, while the president has always denied any involvement in Epstein's crimes, which I call bullshit. You got too many people pointing fingers at you, man. You got millions of Epstein files with your name in it, man. Um, so let's go to Revelation. This is Revelation chapter 18, verse 8. It says, therefore shall our plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is Yahweh who judgeth her. Right? And that's going to be thermonuclear fire, man. And it's going to be real soon. Lashawan Kwadash, Magafa, plagues, judgments, Yawam Akkad, one day, sudden destruction. Breakdown. Once the beast hates the horde, the destruction is swift, nuclear, and final. America's fall is not gradual, it is catastrophic. AI commentary. This is the final stage. The beast nations participate in the fire that consumes Babylon. All right. I'm going to turn that off. So, summary overlay. The scriptures paint a clear chain. The beast, EU, NATO unifies. America rides the beast, political dominance. The beast grows resentful. The beast hates the whore. The beast burns the whore with fire, nuclear destruction. This is the prophetic fracture unfolding in real time. This is AI, man. So, hey, man, the Most High is putting these prophecies into motion, man. They're filling their measure. So with that, I hope at least one brother of the elect was edified. And I'm going to say shalom. Shabbat shalom.